Hello you guys, and welcome back to today's video. What we are going to be talking about today is when we do not, quote, feel God. No matter how long you have walked with the Lord, I'm sure this has been something that you at some point in your faith journey can relate to, or you probably just know what I mean if not. The way people experience this obviously differs because relationships with God differ from person to person, but I want to speak on this today. I also want to kind of dissect what we may mean when we say things like, I don't feel God. I've just been thinking about this as I sit and have some time with Him lately, especially with how we posture ourselves towards God when we are not, quote, feeling Him. So let me give you some examples here. I have had times in my life where when I sit with Him or when I turn my heart towards Him throughout my day, I just feel peace. I feel joy. I feel a reassurance in my heart. I know He hears me when I talk to Him. I can even sometimes just feel the fullness in my heart. Like my heart feels so full. Some people say they get goosebumps. I hear Him in my thoughts. You can see Him like just in the people that you're with and in the beautiful creation outside. And I have times where I feel very sensitive to His nearness. So this is an example of what we probably mean when we say we can feel God, or we could also just say that our senses are heightened to Him because He is always with us, but our awareness is what changes. And then there are times where I feel nothing. Sometimes I even feel numb. This could be for many reasons, or it could be for no reason at all. I definitely don't have answers for this, but I just have been pondering this, and I'm wanting to ask ourselves the question, where does our mind go when we do not, quote, feel God? I'm sure we've all had times where we say a prayer, or we show up to sit with Him, and we feel frustrated or empty or even like alone, and we're just carrying a lot. And if you have experienced Him in those cool ways that I did mention, it's possible to wonder if something is off or what is happening when we do feel numb or nothing. Our mind may even wander, and we might think things like, God, are you listening? Like, are we good? Do you hear me? Do you even care? Like, what is going on? And something that is crucial for us to remind ourselves in these moments is there is no such thing as God not hearing us, abandoning us, and ignoring us when we are asking for Him and truly mean it with all of our hearts and we desire Him. I think in our humanity, the way that we measure whether or not He can hear us or if He cares can get a little dicey. We as humans will learn quite a lot about where our hope is and where our joy lies when either tragedy strikes or when we are simply just in a season where we really are struggling to feel God or hear His voice, and just have to really remind ourselves that He is with us and He cares. I want to say that I really do empathize with being in these times. I have been here myself where I feel like, wow, Lord, I know you care, but honestly, I just feel like you're not helping me. I don't know why, and I am frustrated. These are very hard and confusing times, and you just want answers. And like I said earlier, sometimes there are reasons, and sometimes there are not reasons, which can be equally frustrating. Something I have been asking myself is, am I asking questions like, wow, God, do you even care? Are you even with me? Or am I quick to remind myself of His promises and that He is with me regardless of what I feel or not? This is hard because we like to know things. We want answers for things. Another question is, are we clinging to our own preference of how He comes, how we experience Him, and how He chooses to speak, and then measure if He is with us or not, or cares by this preference? Because we must remember that even His silence is saying something, and it is not to punish or withhold. That is not who He is. It is often, however, to remind. Because we are emotional beings, we can tend to put a very heavy emphasis on experiencing Him through our emotions over anything else. I think sometimes people see this and it has been abused, so then people overcorrect, and then they say that our emotions mean absolutely nothing and that they're meaningless and they're fleeting. And I don't think this is necessarily the case either. God could have made us these robotic and feelingless beings, but He did not. Now, our emotions cannot be what's in the driver's seat, but us having emotions is a beautiful thing. And get this, God has emotions. We have emotions because God has emotions. God is slow to anger, the Bible says, but he does get angry. The word says that he delights over us with singing and dancing, and I don't picture him doing this emotionless with a dry look on his face. I picture God getting giddy and even goofy over how much he loves us and the joy that he feels when we know it. He gets sad and heartbroken over his people rejecting the gift that he has offered to all of humanity. There are also many books in the Bible that you just cannot read and then conclude that God is emotionless. He rejoices, he mourns, he gets happy, he gets upset, and he even rests, which is crazy because he is perfect. Another big takeaway of what we are talking about is emotions are only one way that we can experience God, and we cannot expect him to only use emotion to interact with us. Our emotions cannot have authority to override the truth that we say we believe with our lips, that God loves us and he's with us, but then when we're not experiencing him the way we want to, our feelings then have the authority that cause us to question it all. Faith means you hold true to what you know if things stay the same or if they change, if life is good and abundant or if it is really hard and full of trial. I understand that this is not an easy thing to do. But when you have faith that he is who he's always been, you know that when trial comes or when he comes to you in a different way than he has in the past, instead of falling apart and wondering what is wrong with our connection or maybe what's wrong with me, I now ask, is there anything, Lord, that I'm doing that's causing my ears and my eyes to be foggy from what you are saying? Because I do know that you're always doing something. And if that's not the case, then I see that the silence is intentional, and I remind myself of the trustworthiness in the hands of which it comes from. I ask, what are you trying to give to me then in this space of silence? What are you trying to show me in this space where you are quiet and I don't, quote, feel you? And open the eyes of my heart to see what you are speaking in the silence. Sometimes he's already said something and he's wanting us to sit on it some more before we move on to the next thing. And a lot of times it's because he's trying to give us something in this hard place. It's not because he's a God that withholds out of cruelty, and he is not a God that is silent to punish you. And you guys, sometimes he just wants to teach us to sit with him and rest in the not knowing. It's not about all the time trying to figure out what he's doing or what he's saying or what the next thing to do is. He just wants us to delight in his relationship with us, to be able to sit in his company and rest in him. Maybe it's because he knows you need to chill out and rest. And regardless of if you feel him or not, to be able to press in, that is a skill. That is not an easy thing to do. But you guys, when we learn this, I think the enemy just shudders at the thought of humans that know that they know who God is, regardless of what we feel or what happens. That faith is wild and it is rare. Because we are beings with a mind, body, and a soul, we are also beings with the ability to feel with emotions, feel with our body, and reason with our mind. And God is not limited to interacting with us through one way. And when we say things like we don't feel him, which isn't a bad thing to say, but then what is not great is when we determine that he must not be with us or that he doesn't care because of this, is just truly limiting to how he interacts with us. I want to gently remind us all that he is not a feeling, he is God. A lot of times there is something to be gained in this season when we don't feel him, because that is when we reflect on what he has done, who he is, how he saved you, and your faith is being stirred up in a way that is beyond what you know or how you feel. We worship him and honor him and live our lives for him, not just because of what he does or how he's coming today or how he's going to come through on the next blessing, but because of who he is. I often need this reminder when I'm struggling, and I like to say to myself, God, if you never answered another one of my prayers, you are still worthy and I will still praise you. Who you are is enough for me. And if the answer to my request is no, okay, you are enough. Trust me, there are years of wrestle and will be future years, I'm sure, of Russell that allow me to continue to say that it is a daily choice. He is not quiet because he's trying to punish you. He is not quiet because he doesn't care. And there is not something wrong with you because you don't, quote, feel him right now, or because your relationship with him might look a little different than it has in the past. He is still there. He is still working, and he is still listening. We need to get ourselves into that word, read old journals, remind ourselves of who he is, who you used to be, and how far you have come, and be proud of yourself and be thankful to him for what he has done in your life. He is not done working or listening to you, not even close. That day will actually never come where he stops listening to you, so stop anticipating it. He will not leave you or forsake you, regardless of how you are or feel like you're not experiencing him. Let go of what was past and ask him what new thing he is doing. Rest in him in the silence. Trust that he is working and he is there. I hope you guys are feeling encouraged and seen in this, and know that you are deeply loved by him. Be blessed all. See you next time.